George Foreman, who, by the way, if anybody has earned the right to an opinion in the world of boxing, it's George Foreman. Can we all unanimously agree to that? Okay. Came out, was weighing in on Mike Tyson specifically, the fight with Roy Jones Jr., but specifically Mike Tyson, and said he, meaning Mike Tyson, could win a title. He could be world champion if he can get in great shape, if he can get his timing down, if he can be managed correctly, the right world champion would come to him and Mike could knock them out. Now, that's a very different tale than George was telling a week ago when he referred to Mike Tyson as having temporary insanity. He said the whole reason Mike was going to go fight Roy was temporary insanity. So it's very different. I think that it really furthers the point that Mike earned so many people's respect, didn't he? We don't see comebacks like this. And this was a draw. He fought a guy that competed at 175 pounds for the balance of his career. He fought him to a draw. I mean, in all fair worlds, that's pretty ugly. When you're a heavyweight and you're taking on a 75-pounder, 20 years removed, and the best you can do is a draw under manufactured rounds, times, rest periods, this is something we would tease. This is something we would make fun of, but I'm with George. I'm not making fun of it. I saw something special. What that was, perhaps moreover, was just a lot better than what we had anticipated it would be. Maybe. I did think that George coming out and saying that Mike could win a world title discredits boxing. I mean, I think that would be very bad. George also threw in 5 different ifs. If he gets his timing down, if he gets managed right, if the right guy comes along, if he knocks him out. I mean, there was a lot of ifs there to where you go, well, yeah, George, you're right. Absolutely. I feel like every statement is true if you're allowed to use the word if. You know what I'm saying? So it was very interesting. It was a major tip of the hat from George, who, by the way, won a world title like 45 years old. Believe he was the oldest boxer to ever win a world championship, and he did it just the way that he lined out for Mike. He got good management. The right world champion came his way, and George knocked him out. I'm talking about Michael Moore. So it does start to be very interesting. However, there is an underlying message here that is not as positive. The mere fact that George said the right world champion would come his way. I mean, that's not great for boxing. The fact that you have multiple world champions within the same weight class, it is an oxymoron to the highest of levels. Or is there more than one world? And do you know what the word champion means? But you can have as many as you want. If a promoter comes out and he goes and buys a belt online for $314, which, by the way, is what the average championship boxing belt costs, you can go to title.com and order one for yourself. I mean, you see the problem. It's a world championship if you're holding the event and you call it that. I could hold a world championship in my garage right now, and under the rules of boxing, be recognized. And by the way, I always find myself putting down boxing. I love it. I love boxing. I love what Mike Tyson did. I love that the greats like Teddy Atlas are weighing in on this. And now George Foreman has caught the attention, is giving a tip of the hat to what Iron Mike went out there and did, which in any other universe we would be teasing. He got a draw under manufactured rules in a sparring session that wouldn't even be sanctioned by the jurisdiction that it took place in against a middleweight. And we're talking about he could go out there and win a world championship. It's a very bizarre conversation, and it sounds very backhanded the way I'm saying it to you. It's meant as a compliment. I mean, there was something special that happened here. I don't know how Mike, with every advantage, mainly being the weight class, got the exact same result as Roy did, and we're not complimenting Roy at all. I mean, that's very unfair. George Foreman wasn't out weighing in on Roy. He only weighed in on Mike, who got the same result, but had the advantage. Help me out with this one, guys. I mean, this is a little bit of a puzzle. And not to mention, it's one that we want to see again for Mike. We're not being fair to Roy, but we are learning that this is a star-driven business, the end. We don't really care about the jab, the cross, the hook, and the uppercut. We care about the story. Mike, his entire life, has given us and is continuing to give us a good story. And I might mention for you, there's a major tie-in with Mike and George Foreman, and some of you are too young to know this. But there was once a decade called the 1970s. And when George Foreman was king, George Foreman was hated. And if you're too young to know this, then allow me to indulge you for a moment. George Foreman was hated. George Foreman was a bad guy. Everyone hated him. He never walked into an arena where they didn't boo him. They'd boo him in his hometown as he was fighting. They hated him. George disappears from, George was a rough guy. He didn't have a damn nice thing to say. Wasn't some trash. He was a mean guy that was in a mean business. This is what it is. Put a camera on me. I'm going to be myself. When he came back post 40, right? He won the world title at 45. It's all off the top of my head, but I know I'm very close. But he came back around 42. And when he did that, it was a different George. Not only did he look different, clean shave, shaved his head. Not only did he look different, he all of a sudden was a real cuddly teddy bear type. He was now a grandfather, I think a father of 11 and grandfather to 8 or vice versa, and I'm close enough on the numbers. Point being, he was a different guy. And he came out and America loved him. They got behind him, but that was also very unique to him. I don't think he knew that was going to happen. He wasn't working a character. He wasn't a character when he was the bad guy. He was a rough guy with rough things to say in a rough business. The end. And when he came back, he was now a different guy. He was a father and he was a grandfather and he just had a goal and he was going to chase his goal and he was up early and he was working hard, old school, work hard. He didn't get in the weight room and start pumping the iron around. He would go out, he would chop wood, literally. He would chop old school stuff. A lot of running, a lot of... America looked at him differently, and it was very unique for him. I can remember his face. I can remember him looking around. Everybody's cheering him. Everybody's behind him. Everybody's behind the store. And I remember George. Specifically, he went on David Letterman, just by example. I watched it, and I remember when the crowd was cheering him and Letterman was being nice to him. I remember George's look. It's not what he was used to. It's not what he was expecting. He wasn't trying to manipulate the media. He was just a different guy that had been removed, and I think that we're seeing that with Mike, too. I mean, Mike is now a very pleasant guy. Am I going too far with that? Maybe, but I mean, he does seem to be pretty pleasant. He's not yelling at reporters back and forth. He's not biting people at press conferences. He's not looking to go out and destroy him. He's complimenting Roy, told Roy how much he respected him, got caught with a hook. He said, yeah, it hurt. I mean, the old Mike Tyson never would have admitted that. And nothing wrong with that, but it is different. It is different. I think that we're going to be on a journey here. I think that journey has to lead us quickly to Evander Holyfield. It doesn't seem as though there's anything else to do for either of them. Evander has nothing to do and wants to do it. Mike is willing to go in there with Evander, and ultimately it's our choice, right? I mean, this is a retail product that we're paying for. That's the one we're willing to pay for. But it is a little bit unfair that Roy had the disadvantage, got the exact same result that Mike did, and all we're doing is talking about Mike. I'm guilty of it too. I'm just bringing it to your attention.